So, welcome everybody. This is Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly community call happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Today is December 5th, 2023, and my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft 365 platform and community side of the house. Now, today we were initially planning to have 3 different demos, but unfortunately, it is part kind of at that side time of the year where a lot of people might get sick or have changes on their health. So unfortunately, we needed to reschedule John. So within an hour or before, he let me know that he can unfortunately make this one. So we're going to start today, or we will have 2 demos of today. And John has been rescheduled for 9th of January, which is right after we're getting back from the holiday break within this Tuesday call. But before we go there, we're going to have a latest updates on the news on the Microsoft 365 Power Platform side. So what's happening there? We also have updates on the events, what's happening on the event side and all of that. And then we go to the group photo together. And hopefully that one is working properly this time. And then we go to the actual stars of the day, who will be Waldek Mastykarz Garry Trinder, who's going to get a bit more extra time on their demo. So we're going to extend the demos a bit longer today. And they're going to start by building a Microsoft Graph connectors in the easy way with Microsoft Teams Toolkit. So we're going to focus on Teams Toolkit quite heavily today, because then I'm going to follow up on creating SPFx powered Microsoft Teams solutions in minutes with Microsoft Teams Toolkit. There's some new cool samples available within the Teams Toolkit, and I'll show you in practice how fast it is to actually create a production-ready SPFx solution using the Teams Toolkit, which is really, really cool. Now, before we go there, let's recap some of the assets which we have available. Obviously, we have the YouTube channel, we have the LinkedIn, where you can have a discussion. YouTube channel is where we publish all of the community call recordings and demo videos and a lot of other stuff as well. We have a lot of open source assets available, but as it might be a bit difficult for you to find a relevant sample what you're looking for, we have also this sample galleries, which is a great way of using a search engine to find the relevant sample for you. There's quite a few URLs to remember, but technically it's only one, which is akms/community /home, from where you can get access on all of the different assets and SDKs and tools and samples and YouTube channels and much, much, much more from one centralized location. Follow us on Twitter. That's a good way of also staying up to date on what's happening. Now, we do have a lot of these community calls. You are in one of them, so you probably know about these calls. There's quite a few of them. This one is the Tuesday 8 a.m. Pacific time happening call, where we always have Microsoft presenters, either from Microsoft 365 or Power Platform side. This call will be on a holiday break from 20th of December to 8th of January. And what that technically means is that the last call will be on 19th. And then the first call will be on 9th of January. So there's going to be 2 weeks in the holiday season where we're going to be on break. We'll probably drop by still to, show a picture that unfortunately the call is canceled because it's a holiday break. So if you drop by, you can say hi, but we're not going to engage during those 2 weeks. Hopefully you will have an opportunity to take some time off and hang with the family during that time as well. Now, within the December, we still have the Power Platform monthly community call happening, Office add-ins community call happening, and then we also have our Thursday 7 a.m. Pacific time series, which is happening throughout the holiday season. So on Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, we either have the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call or the Viva Connection and SharePoint Favorite community call. During the holiday season, we're not going to cancel those calls. So they are happening, but we're going to focus more on drinking tea and coffee and whatever is your chosen beverage. So join in, we can have a chat, we can do live demos and Q&A within those calls. So we want to have the Thursday calls as the ones which we never cancel. 7 a.m. Thursday, every single Thursday, you can always join the community regardless of the time of the year. So that's always an option for you. Now, within these calls, there's quite a lot of demos, and you are welcome to do demos within the calls as well. If I can get my slides moving, there we go. So we do welcome community demos, and we really want community to showcase what they built within the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. The easiest way to sign up, or the way to sign up, is go to this form, fill the form. We will then contact you and get you scheduled on the right call based on the demo and title and suggestion what you're providing. We do not accept product demos because that's a separate audience, but this is really on if you build something. It doesn't have to be open source, but if you have something to share around your learnings or a feature, or Microsoft released this really cool feature. What if I would actually use community call to create a demo video or a demonstration of the new feature what Microsoft released, that's completely fine as well. So you can actually do introductions of new features, capabilities, products, what we have done within Microsoft 365, and then we'll get it published within our YouTube channel. So you'll get the exposure. So you don't have to start your own personal YouTube channel from scratch. We can help you to get started as well. And of course, you can definitely do your own YouTube channel as well. Definitely recommend it as well. Thank you, Elliot, on that suggestions. Yes. Now, we do have a lot of assets available to get started in the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, so within the Microsoft Cloud. So we have our developer program, really easiest way to get to free E5 developer tenant, and then a lot of learning material and learning modules available at the Microsoft Learn. We also have our podcast and video blogs, which are happening frequently. So we have our PMP Weekly, where we just had Agnes Molnar, she's a search expert, and we talked about is the search any more valuable because of the AI on all of that within the episode, which went live earlier today with me and Waldek and Agnes. There's also Caruana's Header Show, Mondays at Microsoft, happening bi-weekly. There's the Power Platform Connections, David and Hugo Bernier. And then there's the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast with Jeremy Fake and Paul Schaffelin. They're looking into starting that also in January again. So there's going to be a new episode on that side. The samples, so just to recap here, on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Sample Gallery, we have more than 1,760 samples available from Microsoft and community. Really great asset to get started and also get some inspiration. If you're looking into UI design suggestions or extensibility options, just go here, have a look on what people are submitting and exposing, and then you get inspiration out of them. Really great asset to get started as well. Now, when you then find a sample, you might be wondering, okay, now I'm in GitHub. What do I do now? Oh my God, David, help me to get started. How do I get started? David, help me to get started, right?
Vesa, I'm here to help you get started. What do you
Excellent.
know? What are the odds? All right, everybody. We know you've been waiting. We got our office hours coming soon. We will have it all up within the next month, I promise. But Sharing is Caring is here to provide you guidance. We're trying to find ways to scale that. That means videos. We want to make sure that the live component is available to you because that's important for you to get that on-demand, immediate answer and feel confident to go use the samples, contribute to the samples, and collaborate with the community. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you for your patience. We absolutely love this program and are trying to find a way to make it ensure it scales to everybody's needs. Now, once you have contributed, we absolutely also want to recognize you. And you've seen all those cool badges which are available to all of you. We're prepping new ones for 2024 as well, but there are still plenty available for 2023. You've got a few weeks left. Take advantage of it. We get our Slice of Sample Season of Getting. These are fun and real ways of showing that you are making a difference in the community. It absolutely is no cost to anybody. You just need to opt in, ak.ms/community/recognition. You provide us your email address and your GitHub account, and we will track you in a non-stalky way and make sure that you are recognized.
Track you down. We will track you down.
Always watching you. Yeah. Unlike Monsters, Inc., we will watch you in a fun, good way, and we will reward you in all the good ways that you want to be. So definitely get opted in. We see all those badges being shared on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we're going to continue to bring them to you for years and years and years and years. So, but Vesa, back to you in Finland.
Excellent. Thank you, David, on that one. And just that I'm watching here, all of these batches are now for 2023. Guess what? 2024 is coming pretty soon. So don't wait with your submissions. But as the new year comes, you will get a new batches as a community contributors for 2024 as well. So new year, new batches, and new opportunities to contribute and get involved, which is really cool. And by the way, thank you everybody for sharing those on social media. It is really great to see the engagement and the showcase the power of the community as we're building this together. Now, a few event recaps. So within the next year, the first bigger events will be the April 13th, May 1st, and May 2nd, the Microsoft 365 conference in Orlando. This is intended to be a pretty big one, actually, this year. So there's a expected growth around from attendance perspective, from Microsoft presenter perspective, and we're setting down all of the rules and presenters and locking down the plan quite soon. The workshops have been, unless I'm completely mistaken, are now blocked, and they're all published and available in the website. So a great way of actually getting to know the Microsoft 365 and also together with Power Platform in that conference. We also have the 365 EduCon happening next year as well. So Seattle, DC, Dallas happening from June, August, and November. Those are familiar locations from last year as well, where EduCon was happening there. And then we have a lot of other global events happening. You can catch all of these from communitydays.org. There are still some events happening virtually or in person by end of this year, and then a lot of new events happening within the 2024. So please go to the communitydays.org, check out all of the different events. It might be that there's an event happening right within your town. Then drop by, have a discussion with other community members, and get more involved. It's a great way of learning from each other. Now, on the news side of the house, still quite a lot of news. We did have the European SharePoint conference happening last week, so a lot of news related on SharePoint Embedded and SharePoint and Microsoft 365 announcements over that side. Some news on Microsoft Teams. Really good, cool updates on Power Apps on November updates as well, and then quite a lot of new Microsoft 365 developer platform news as well. I'm not going to go, of course, through all of them, but thank you, David, on pasting in all of the links within the chat so you can go through them on your own time. Now, before we go to the actual demos then of today, let's try to see if we can get the Together mode to work today. So let me flip to the Together mode and let me try to use a different scene. Hopefully it is working properly, and if not, then it's not going to work. So we'll see. Together mode selected for everybody, but I'm only seeing a blank screen, and no! I think, David, you had the similar issue last week as we were in.
Yeah, it came in after a second or two, but the large gallery, I believe, worked. Let's see if that was for me.
Let's see. Now it's in a large gallery mode.
Yeah, that's black for me too.
No, I don't like this. I think we're using a too new version probably on the client side when we're testing and dogfooding, and this is the joy of dogfooding internally in Microsoft. So always using a later version, and then things might actually happen. That was a great sound, by the way.
The dogs.
The dogs. Can we do gallery at only? Oh, we can do only gallery and only with can we do dynamic? But that's not, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah, that actually worked is what.
Cool. And then let me do here Camtasia. This is better than nothing. We'll try to figure out how to get the Together mode to work better. There's a lot of familiar faces in there. I will get the recording started in a second. 1 second. Here we go. Oh, there we go. And let me get rid of that one. Let me get the camera on. I'll be on the screen as well. And we will start recording. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Here we go. We're recording. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Not the optimal Together mode picture, but this is not too bad. Quite a few people actually on the screen. This is really, really cool as well. Excellent. We'll figure out how to get Together mode picture back, and that's on us, and that's on a bug on our side as we're testing out the latest versions of Microsoft Teams. But thank you for that one. We'll definitely spend some time on trying to get that one back online for Thursday this week. Excellent. So that's the Together mode picture, almost Together mode picture. But anyway, we'll have the GIF shared in social media as well. And then going back on the demos of today, as mentioned, John Miller has been rescheduled now for 9th of January. And that's because John is unfortunately sick today. Dear Camtasia, don't do that. Dear Camtasia, not now. Go away. Here we go. So John is rescheduled for 9th of January 2024. So we'll recap on what's the latest on Microsoft Teams Toolkit on that call. And then today, Waldek and Garry is going to start, and then I'm going to actually continue with the SPFx in Teams. But Teams Toolkit stuff today. So we'll start first with the Microsoft Graph connectors with Garry and Waldek. And I can see the screen.
I started sharing my screen. Is it on? Is this thing on?
This microphone is on as well. Take it away.
All right, brilliant. Thank you all. in the coming 20 minutes, we're going to show you how you can build Microsoft Graph Connect the easy way with Teams Toolkit. Basically, TLDR, press F5 and it just works. It's got to be that simple. So that's what you will learn in the coming 20 minutes or so. First things first, though. Why connectors? What are they? Why would you care? Like, we all know, right, that in our work, we use many different apps. We have apps for support tickets, HR systems, whatever systems, contract systems. And while all these apps help us do our work, challenge is that you need to know what content is stored where and how to access all these apps. You need bookmarks, you need different apps to go there, and so forth and so on. Why not be able, imagine, right, that you can find all the content from all these different apps from one single place, being Microsoft 365, right? So that is kind of the value add of using a connector. With Microsoft Graph Connectors, you can find the content in your org from one single place, being Microsoft 365, no matter where it's stored. So no longer you need to worry about which app, who put it there, and so forth and so on. All of that is available to you right from the fingertips. And what's really cool about it is that you can not only find the content that you need, but you can also find out about new content, right? So folks with whom you work, if they work on the content that's important to you, like a contract or project plan or whatever, you will discover that too, right? So there's also a benefit for you to be able to find out more about what people around you are working on. So what is a connector? A high-level overview is exactly that, right? There are connectors that are available out of the box. You just get to use them, set them up, and they work. But if you have a need, if you need to connect to a system that isn't available out of the box, you can build your own. And when you build your own, when we talk about that, it's basically a piece of code that will connect to the system from which you want to import the content. And then it will use Entra ID, AAD in the past, to authenticate towards Microsoft 365, and we'll use the Microsoft Graph APIs to ingest the content to Microsoft 365. So it's really as simple as what you're seeing on the screen, and it can be as simple as a PowerShell script. It can be as elaborate as a fully fledged cloud app with scale-out serverless queues, Kubernetes, whatever you want, depending on the requirements that you've got, the scale you need to handle, right? So keep that in mind. It can be really simple or it can be really elaborate, all depending, again, on what you need. Now, if you build a connector by itself, it's just a cloud app. It's just a piece of code. There is nothing to it. But you also have this one cool ability, which is to deploy a connector as a Teams app. Now, why would you do that? Two reasons. One is it gives you a fully automated deployment. Like you don't need to give somebody a PowerShell script or a document to set things up. Because when you think about a connector, before it can ingest the content from your external system, it needs to create a connection and a schema, right? So you need to have that initial set up first. And again, like you can do it from your code, but somebody needs to start that code. If you use a Teams app to deploy a connector, you will get a UI for that. And that is also the benefit too, right? That admins get a control that is a standardized UI that they already know to turn connectors on and off. And that is really great because you don't need to build something by yourself, so it saves you time. And again, it makes it easier to use them because admins already know how these things work. So it's easier. It's made to make things easier. Right. So if you choose to build a connector and to package it as a Teams app, how things change. Now, obviously, we evolved the picture a little bit, right? So on the right-hand side, you see things like connector storage, external content, and so forth and so on. So that is kind of targeting more a connector that would evolve as a cloud app, right? So imagine that you have a connector that runs in a cloud, and you want to have that deployed as a Teams app. On the left-hand side, what you see is a package, right? And that is a Teams app package that you deploy to the Teams admin center. Once it's there, the admin will enable a connector using a toggle, and that sends signal to your app, which then to your code, which then means like, hey, now it's time to set things up and start ingesting the content using the Microsoft Graph. So there are a few additional bits that you need to do. From the dev point of view, there are three things you need to add. You need to have obviously a Teams app because you're going to package connector as a Teams app. In the manifest of the app, you need to have a URL of the webhook where Teams Admin Center will reach out to say admin has turned the connector on or off. So that URL needs to be embedded in there. And in your code, you need to have an API to receive the webhook. So again, when admins choose to turn the connector on or off, your code will run and it will get the signal saying clean everything up or set everything up. So that is what you need in production. In dev, for that to work, you can imagine that you will probably need some more things, right? Because like you need to have a URL that will be called from Teams Admin Center, right? So if you're doing local dev, how will Teams Admin Center, which is in a cloud, reach out to your local box? Well, you will need a tunnel. You will need to expose the local API that you run on the internet. Right, so we have a product for that, which are dev tunnels, which allow you to do that. Right, so you need to start that. Now, every single time you start a tunnel, it will get new URL. So that URL needs to go into the Teams app manifest, which then needs to go into the package, which you need to redeploy to the Teams Admin Center. Right, so for the dev, ideally, you want to automate all of this. You don't need to, like, every single time you press F5, oh yeah, now I need to change this and then change that, adjust the URL, repackage the thing, update the version, update the package. You don't want to do all of that by hand because it's inefficient, it's slow, it distracts you from your main work being building the connector. And the cool thing is that now you're about to see how you can automate all of that because Teams Toolkit allows you to do exactly that. So with that, I'm handing it over to Gary, who's going to walk you step by step through how all of this exactly works.
Thanks, Waldek. Hopefully everyone should be able to see my screen.
Yep, it's
all
on.
Good, and you can hear me even better. Right, okay, I'll take it away. So thanks, Waldek. So in front of you now, you've got Visual Studio Code, and I am showing you a sample that is available for you to go and take a look at. We'll give you the link after I've just walked you through what it does and why you'd want to take a look at it. So this is a sample that, as Waldek has just mentioned, automates all the moving pieces that you need to think about when developing a graph connector and ingesting data into Microsoft 365. So this sample effectively ingests data from a custom API into Microsoft 365 and does all of the handling of uploading Teams app packages and everything else for you. So I'm just going to show you now the result of running this project. So we talked about the app, the Teams app that gets deployed so that admins can turn on or off the connection. So we have our Teams app here. We have our graph connector, and we can see that we have our connection status here so that the connection is ready. The admin can come along, they can tick this button, they can turn it off, turn it back on. This sample also sets up a data source in Microsoft Search. So if we come into the portal in here, we can see, go to data sources, just refresh that, there we are. So we have our Foodsy local data source, and we have data ingested into here as well. If I just open this up, we can see we've got 50 items indexed. And another thing which this sample also does for you is it adds in a custom result type as well, so that when the search results are returned, they're using our own custom type. So I can show you this running. If I go to Microsoft365.com, type in chocolate. There we have our results. We have some blank results, but we do have some results in there. We can click on that and it goes to our external API where we got the data from. Okay, so that's the end result of running this sample. Let's take a look at what happens when you come to run it. So we've made this incredibly simple for you. All you have to do is hit F5 and everything happens magically. Well, not magically, because I'm going to show you actually how all how all this works. So as Waldek mentioned, we're using Teams Toolkit to provide a lot of this automation. Teams Toolkit is the Visual Studio Code extension, so you can get that from the marketplace and install it. And this is designed for building Teams apps and Teams apps fast. Now there is no template for building a graph connector. So what we did was we started with just an Azure Functions project, normal Azure Functions project, and then we added in all of the automation from Teams Toolkit by adding in a number of files. Those files being these files down here. So we have our YAML files, our project files, we have our environment files, we have our app package from our manifest as well. And the last folder we have is our VS Code folder, which includes a lot of our automation tasks. We've also got all of our Azure Function code in this source directory. So this is using the new Azure Functions, the V4 programming model as well. So what happens when you come along and press F5? So what happens is we have this configuration in here. So this is our starting point. If I open up the debug panel, you can see that we have this compound called debug. And this runs a pre-launch task, which is here called TTK. And it also runs a configuration as well, which it will run last. The first thing we're going to do is going to look at this pre-launch task, and that is held within a task.json file. And in here, this is where we've got all of our tasks that are going to run in the background, things like npm install, ensuring some environment files, ensuring a dev tunnel as well, which Waldek had mentioned. We need a dev tunnel running. We're going to start an Azurite emulator. So this project actually uses emulated Azure storage. So we use tables and we use queues as well to help with the setup of the connector. And we also have a provision stage. So this provision stage is quite important because this is where Teams Toolkit really comes in. So if I go all the way down to our provision task, which is here, we can see that we have a type of Teams FX task, which is running the provision command. Now that relates to our Teams app YAML.local file. And in here, we have a few scripts that we're running to set up our custom API. So we've got a storage a table that has data in there that we're exposing an API. The connector is calling to then ingest that data into M365. We also have another script which increments the manifest version because we're going to be publishing this to the admin center. We want to make sure that we're incrementing that version so it doesn't get blocked because the admin center doesn't like it if you upload the same app manifest with the same version number. But here's where we start to deploy things that the connector needs. So the first one here is our AAD create app. AAD app create task. So this creates an Azure AD app registration, creates the secret, and pulls back a lot of the IDs that we need, the client secrets, into our environment files. And this is defined in the AAD manifest file. So in here, if you ever looked at a manifest file for an Azure AD or Microsoft Entra ID app registration, you'll see that we have some scopes in here for Microsoft Graph. So these are application permissions for external connections, read write owned by, and external item read write owned by, which is obviously going to enable us to create the connections and then ingest that data into Microsoft 365. Okay, let's go back to our YAML file. We then do some validations of our manifests. We also use this task here, which is the create or update JSON file. And now this is taking out the IDs that we've got back from the task that has created our Azure AD app registrations, and we're dropping these into the local settings JSON file, which is used by the Azure function. So these are the runtime environment variables. And in here is where we define all of the variables that are needed when this Azure function runs. And then finally, we update we publish the app package to the Teams admin center, because at this point, everything is ready. Our app package is all good. If we look at the app package, there's one crucial piece of information in here, and this is the graph connector. So this is where, when this is deployed to the Teams admin center, we're telling Teams, hey, this is the notification URL, and this is where the notification is going to be sent when our administrator enables or disables that connector in the admin center. Obviously, because this could change, our tunnel could change. We want this to update every time we do F5 potentially as well. So this is using Teams Toolkit placeholders in here, and we have a generated manifest here with all of the values. So we can see this is our tunnel URL that's being used in here. Oh, Visual Studio Code has decided to, has decided to go a little bit slow. But you can see here what the actual manifest looks like, and here's the app package that is actually uploaded. Okay, so the final piece is, if we go back to our tasks, if we go back to launch, is the final thing after we've uploaded the app package to Teams Admin Center, we then start Azure Functions. This host start task is called Azure Functions spin up, and then we're ready. We've got everything provisioned. We've got everything running on our machine, so that when we hit that enable toggle, the notification comes to our endpoint, which is in here. So if we go to the HTTP notification, so we can see that we're going to receive a post request. And what we do in here is we just detect, okay, what's the action? Are we creating or are we deleting? And we drop a message into a queue. And we have a queue connection in here, which when the message is received, which is all defined in here, the message with the action for creating or deleting or even checking the status, we will then go and create the connection, which is here. So we'll call Microsoft Graph and create the connection. Once that is done, we will then create the schema. Again, we're calling Microsoft Graph here, and at this point, the schema creation can take a while. It's kind of like go for a coffee time. So what we do is we actually drop a message into the queue as well with the status, and we keep checking. So if we look at the enqueue check status, we basically set a timeout of checking like every 60 seconds, but this is just running in the background. It's just dropping messages into the queue. It's just checking. And when the connection comes back as being completed, so we have this check schema status in here, we start a full crawl. So here we again send a message to another queue, which is queue content, which helps us then define, okay, what crawl are we doing? In this case, we haven't got any data, so we're going to do a full crawl. So we have this function called crawl full or incremental. And in here, this is where we send a message to our backend API, which is called products. And that's defined in this file here, which, standard API definition. So we have things for delete product, update product, get product, and so on. VS Code is running a little bit slow again. I'm not sure why that is. Oh, Windows not. Oh, There we go. It's come back to life again. Where was I? Yeah, so this is where we have our products defined. So we've got get product and we have get products as well. So what we do here is we essentially then push the products into 365, and at the end of all of this, we'll then end up with the data source, which is full of items. But the key thing here is Teams Toolkit is doing a lot of the hard work for you. If we have a look at the terminal, you can see the processes that we have running. So this is already running. We have our Azurite emulator here. We have our dev tunnel. We have the usual watches. So as we're developing, you make changes to your Azure function, they get recompiled, and we've got our host, our Azure function host that is running here. With we've got some output already. In the we also have timer functions in here as well. So we have a timer function which is running the crawls on a schedule as well. And we also have the ability for you to start an on-demand crawl as well by just sending a HTTP request. But this is just running in the background. It's checking, see if things exist or whether they need updating or whether we had new data in our API that then we can push into M365 as well. Now, because this is running locally using the storage, you can actually view the queues. If you use Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, you can look in here, have a look at the queues. There's nothing in them, so we've not got anything in there. But you can see the kind of like our backend database, which backs our API, and you can also see the external items which have been ingested into 365 as well. So we keep a copy of what has been ingested, so that we can do that sync and make sure that we're refreshing data in there. And with that, I believe that is it. Waldek, do you want to close up with the slide?
Totally. Let me share one more thing, because there are folks who ask about one important thing. Is this sample available online? Yes, it is. It's available online at the URL you're seeing on the screen, aka.ms/gc for graph connectors /samples /TTK-VSC, Teams Toolkit VS Code. So you can go there, you will grab sample, you have all of the code. If you are stuck anywhere, like we've got instruction, we even get to the point where we've got the diagrams for you explain, like we have sequence diagrams explaining the different flows, architecture diagrams explaining how different things fit. So we really try to make it, as extensive, as complete as we can, and also as close to prod as you can. So you've seen queues, you've seen tables, you've seen all that. So all meant towards the goal of giving you a reference point that you would reasonably use as a starting point to build something real. So with that, check it out and let us know if it's working, if it's not working, if it's stuck, if you missed something, or everything's fine and you enjoy it. Perfectly fine. We'd love to hear it too. So with that, thank you again for your time. If there is anything, do reach out to us, and I will give it back to Vesa, who's going to tell you more about SPFx.
More about Teams Toolkit. Yes, both of them. Yes. So thank you for that one. Really, really cool, Waldek. Awesome demo, Garry and Waldek, both of you. Really awesome to see those demos available for people to take advantage. These are complex demos as well, so it's a really powerful stuff what people can start using super easily. Now, let me share my screen. Let's go in this screen. And I'll take it over from here. As said, as we started the call, unfortunately, John cannot make it today. He has been scheduled for 9th of January, so I'm going to talk a bit about creating an SPFx-powered Microsoft Teams solutions in minutes with Teams Toolkit. And I actually want somebody to time this, because I want to understand how fast we can actually do this. Not the demo, but when I tell that let's time this, let's do that. So we should be fine within 10 to 15 minutes within this one. Now, quickly recapping again the context, you might have seen SharePoint Embedded being announced last week and SharePoint Premium being announced 2 weeks ago in Ignite. So we'll kind of refreshing the SharePoint branding. And that is actually including SharePoint Framework as well. So we're looking into SharePoint Framework to be also the easiest way to build and implement your Microsoft 365 solutions by using automatic single sign-on, automatic hosting, consistent dev experience, industry standard tooling. Okay, of course, SharePoint Framework works for some scenarios. It's primarily for enterprise development, not necessarily for all of the scenarios out there. So if you are a SaaS ISV, as in you have a website-based application which you want to expose in Teams, well, maybe SharePoint Framework isn't the right option for you. If you're looking into, however, implementing different extensibility points within the Microsoft 365, you can use SharePoint Framework with the web stack development tooling with React, Vue, Angular, whatever you want, to extend SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, and also Outlook and Microsoft 365 apps. So it's a really, really convenient way of doing things efficiently without any complexity of where is my code going to be hosted. Again, if that's not a problem for you, then you'll be all good and you don't necessarily want to use the SharePoint Framework. So it's one of the options within the tool stack. Now, SharePoint Framework has been incredibly successful within the last years. The adoption is out of this roof. And we released SharePoint Framework in 2017. And by the way, we have this enterprise level backward compatibility, which people don't necessarily always understand until they hit it. So any code which you built with SharePoint Framework version 1.0 back in 2017 still works in SharePoint Online. So we guarantee a proper enterprise level development backward compatibility for the code. You don't need to recompile, shuffle, do any modifications. It will just work. So, and that's pretty cool. Code which you created 7 years ago still works in SharePoint Online or in Microsoft 365 without any reason to recompile. And that's a massive enterprise level backward compatibility support. And that's one of the reasons why we see the adoption growing so rapidly within the Microsoft 365. I cannot go exact details, but we're looking into tens of millions of monthly active users, and it's tens and tens of millions of monthly active users for third-party custom components for SPFx within Microsoft 365. Now, we talked about this one in the past as well, why SharePoint Framework for Microsoft Teams. It's definitely super cool, easy way of actually just implementing client-side extensibility and then making that hosted automatically within Microsoft 365 for Viva, for Outlook and Office and SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. So you only need to worry about, especially if you want to worry about the client-side experiences and then hit graph APIs or information within the Microsoft 365, SharePoint Framework is definitely the easiest way to do those implementation. If you are a Angular developer, you don't need to worry about any Azure complexity backend, whatever. If you don't want to, you can use just your Angular skills or whatever skills you have on a client-side development with SPFx and focus on the UI level implementation. Now, when we start implementing SharePoint Framework stuff for Teams, the Teams SDK is natively involved over there as well. So you can access directly within the base classes the Teams SDK. And there's a code example here which is showing how to know are you actually being the component. Is it being hosted in Office? Is it being hosted in Outlook or in Teams or Teams Modern or within SharePoint? So you're able to double check where I'm being actually hosted. Just a word of a warning to call out there. There was an interesting scenario related on Teams JavaScript JS SDK related on the name of the Teams Modern, which people needed to take into account within their code. A bit of a bummer that we introduced a new name for classic Teams and then the modern Teams, but no can do. All that's now sorted out as well. Now, for the Teams Toolkit development, Teams Toolkit actually simplifies this development quite significantly. It's a really great tooling. It has an easy F5 debugging for the Teams Workbench and actually for Outlook Workbench and also for Office 365 Workbench. And we're going to show that one live as well. I walk through the simple sample, well, not a simple, but a few minutes sample scenario which, within the upcoming demo. This one was introduced in Teams Toolkit version 4.1 forward, and there has been improvements for the SPFx integration in Teams Toolkit since. So we're working closely together with Teams Toolkit development team to make this as a seamless experience on top of the Yeoman generators and SPFx development story as possible. Really cool thing, already mentioned on the previous slide, you can do debugging so easily. You just spin up your project. Then after the spinning of the project, you can just simply say, hey, I want to do F5 debugging, for example, in Outlook, and voila, that's it. There was no additional settings, no additional complexity needed. But what I'm going to do, and that's something what I'm going to share a demo today, but with a bit more complicated scenarios. So let me show you one of the samples which you have now available within the Teams Toolkit and how fast we can show a really polished Teams application implemented within an SPFx. So let's jump into it. So let me actually go to the Teams Toolkit. I'm into Visual Studio Code. Obviously, we can find the Teams Toolkit from the tools extension marketplace. You'll get it installed. Right now, I'm running a version 5.3. Lot of numbers, which is the latest version, pre-released version. Doesn't really matter. This functionality works in the previous Teams Toolkit versions as well, as long as it's 5.3.x, so it doesn't have to be the pre-release version. So let me go to the Teams Toolkit site, and let me actually start from viewing the samples. This has been improved quite significantly from the previous versions, so you can actually access different samples, different scenarios. You can, based on the platform capabilities, languages, technologies, you can filter down on what are you looking into doing, or you can have the more traditional way of viewing this. You might be familiar with this view from the past as well. So in our case, we wanted to do a quick demo on SPFx. So let me actually do technology and SPFx. And we can see 3 different demos, which are basically ready to go with a single button click whenever I selected from them. So now let me choose the Contoso Retail dashboard. This is a really cool sample, polished sample, which works in Outlook, in Microsoft 365 app, in SharePoint, in Microsoft Teams as well. So clicking that one, looking into that one, that looks pretty polished, nice sample. It's scaling automatically. We'll have a look on that one. It says 5 minutes to run. That's not actually too bad. Let's have a look on how it actually works. So let me create a solution. And I'm going to put this one in my F and code folder. There we go. And it basically started now downloading the sample. You can see it in the top lower corner. Here's my new solution. Let me zoom in here a bit. One more +1, so you can actually see what's happening here. So the solution has been now copied, and it's basically automatically starting to run the installation sequence. So let's see, when do we actually get it? Here we go. So the README is starting to be visible. Teams Toolkit is doing its thing, and then it fires automatically the npm install with that sample. Now, if you are familiar with web stack development tooling, npm install will take actually a while. Let's see, Teams Toolkit, debug config workbench. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's a separate extension, so we don't need to worry about that one. So npm install is automatically being executed as I'm watching around. What are we actually getting? So this one is a quite sophisticated looking solution. Awesome sample showcases how to do the same SPFx across the different scenarios. And there's a really polished set of implementation within the React components. Let me zoom out a bit so I can actually show you what do we have here. So in our case, we have a SharePoint framework solution, which consists from 3 web parts. If you're not familiar with web part term, it's okay. If you are, then you probably know what they are. But technically, web components, which are then individually web components, which will be visible within the tabs within the solution. All of these web components are basically React components. So if we open up a one web part here and have a look on that one, we actually render a specific retail home React component using React, and that's where we then do the actual rendering of the UI. Not super complex components, but pretty sophisticated and showcases what we can do within using the React and also UI fabric and all of the different settings and capabilities. Now, in our case, it is 3 different web parts. Now, if you come from a SharePoint side, you might be considering a web part as an individual all of these as an individual UX elements. But what we're looking into doing here is bundling those 3 different web parts as a Microsoft Teams solution, so that every single one of those web parts will be exposed in an individual tab. And what's the beauty of the Teams Toolkit is that it actually created the packaging for us automatically. So now if I go to app package and we'll have a look on the manifest and start looking into what did we do here, it actually created us a static tabs configuration with 3 different tabs. And these are the automatic tabs which are technically the same as the web parts, which is show the implementation on the other side. The interesting thing here is also that we're basically loading these individual tabs from the Teams site domain. And this means that we're loading them dynamically from the Microsoft 365. So I do not need to understand where my code is being hosted, where my JavaScript files are being hosted. No, all of that code and JavaScript files and images and other assets which my application might have is automatically hosted as part of the deployment. So there's no external complexity on the Azure requirements and biceps files and all of that, which is not super complicated. But again, it's a simplified option for that. Especially for enterprise development, it might be a bit difficult to get the Azure requirements always in place if we want to do something small or smaller than, for example, what Garry and Waldek were showing. So everything is hosted from Microsoft 365, and that's really, really cool. Now, in our case, the npm install has been now completed, so that's all good. Let me go to the F5 section. The cool thing here, as said, we can see that we can start debugging directly in Teams Workbench, Outlook Workbench, Microsoft 365 Workbench, or in SharePoint. Okay, I'm going to quickly call this out. Which one of these we want to actually use as a testing? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Who's going to answer on the chat? Teams, Outlook, M365 app. No answer. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Anybody? Anybody? No answer. Maybe we'll use Microsoft 365 app. Cool. Teams is clearly the chosen one. Okay, cool. So let's actually use then the Teams. I'm going to use Edge option. Well, Edge is part of the Chromium, but I like Edge for many reasons. Chrome is awesome as well. It doesn't really matter. So I haven't done any modifications as I saw. I created the solution. We just had a look on the code. We run the npm install, and right now I can click the F5 or click the debugging running. It will do a double check on the situation, what's actually happening, or what is the situation of the project. First time, this will take a bit longer, but again, not a massive amount of minutes. There we go. And now we are already packaging, doing npm install. Well, we actually already done that, so that's not going to take the full npm install. There we go. And then we are starting the deployment mechanism to be running. So we're running the local web server from localhost, so we're able to actually do debugging directly from here. I haven't done any configuration updates, nothing within my environment, just created the solution and a sample. And this really shows the power of the Teams Toolkit of simplifying things. Now it actually starts a Webpack behind the scenes. And that does take a while because this is a relatively complex solution. It's a bit of a pity. We're looking into optimizing that as well in the future, but it shouldn't be too long from that perspective. The Webpack is basically compiling or transcompiling that TypeScript to an HTML or JavaScript, so we're able to use that. Now, what happened was that it also fired a browser on one of my screens. So I have multiple screens, so it didn't actually see that. It fired that on a different screen, but let me actually sign in. So let me go to my demo tenant, signing in, and I need to register or do an sign in. And 86 is the number. There we go, from my mobile. There we go. Multi-factor authentication is a good thing to do. We can say, for example, that, yeah, just give us sign in. Doesn't really matter. And we can actually see our HTTP localhost web component, web server now starting to serve directly in the context of Microsoft Teams, which is really, really cool. Let me extend this a bit so we can actually render that more nicer. No, dismiss now. It will do the installation of the package automatically, or it will initiate the installation. I'll add the solution in. And then it will automatically redirect me directly to that application. It will, as we are within the SharePoint framework, there's one more warning sign for those people who don't know what they're doing, but we do know what we're doing, so we can actually click the load debug scripts. And that basically means that everything is loaded right now from my local host, and it's actually rendering the UX quite nicely based on the different React components, what we had done on the side. And of course, all of this works seamlessly, so I can go to the retail inventory as an example. 9:20, really, David? It's already done. Now it's completed. It's already done. So you should stop the timer. But everything works obviously seamlessly using the React components and client-side development. And again, if I go to the code side of the things and extend my source code, go to the web parts, and let's go to the retail home and add a breakpoint, for example, for the render. There we go. We can really double check that. Oh, let me actually get that one there. That should actually do it. And now if I go back in here and if I click home, it should actually load that component and it would stop the execution in here. And here we go. And we are debugging live directly within here. And that means that we can do stuff like, where is our output window? We can basically have a look on what is the context and what is the information inside of it. So we can do live debugging directly within the Microsoft Teams in the context of the Microsoft Teams, as we can see in here. And if I execute this one, it renders properly in here. That's actually pretty cool. So super easy to do and quite sophisticated sample. This one works without any backend, so you can of course modify that to work with the backend. We do have samples of an example scenario on this one, which is Azure function powered, and you can modify that one. But we really wanted to have this really nice experience for everybody to benefit on a polished Contoso retail example, which has multiple tabs with SPFx. They're web parts, but they're actually exposed directly within the Microsoft Teams solution, showcasing the client-side rendering capabilities here as well. And that's it. Thank you, David, actually referencing the sample from the sample solution gallery. Easiest way, as you saw, to find the sample, especially the one which works seamlessly within the Teams Toolkit, is to use the sample creation in the Teams Toolkit UI, because that works extremely well directly within the Teams Toolkit from here. But that's it for the demo side from that one. So hopefully that's actually exciting for the simplification of the SPFx development for Microsoft 365 using the Teams Toolkit. Maybe one more thing, because we have plenty of minutes time before we close up. Something which it's a super new on this week. So we do have the Viva Connection Toolkit as well. This is a community-powered SPFx extension, which nowadays the latest version actually works together with the Teams Toolkit. So you can actually use side by side the Teams Toolkit and the SPFx Toolkit or the Viva Connection Toolkit for the operations. So the Viva Connection Toolkit provides upgrade project, validate current project, deployments, and a few other additional settings. And this works understands the context of the Teams Toolkit as well. So they can be activated side by side, which is really, really cool. Something to be aware of as well. But that's it for that demo. So actually, let's move on to the next steps and close up for the call today. So thank you, Waldek and Gary, for the great demo around the Graph connectors. Really, really cool to see that one live as well. A bit more complicated than my sample scenario with the SPFx. And again, depends on a use case. Next week, we have really, really cool demos also queued up. So Sebastian Levert is going to come back related on what's new on the Microsoft Graph Toolkit v4, live demos on that one. Alex Terentiev and yours truly is going to be talking about framework-powered Viva Connection ACEs. So we'll have an updated demo, updated storyline, updated capabilities, what that actually means in practice. So Microsoft Viva Connection has ACE extensibility options, and starting within pretty soon, you can actually use bot framework, or in the future, Teams AI SDK-powered bots to actually output those cards into Viva Connection. Really, really cool scenario as well. And then Sean Henry is going to talk about the introduction of WhatsApp support in the Azure Connection communication services. So you can actually send WhatsApp messages using Azure started pretty soon as well. Or actually, I think it's already available, but good to see that live demo on next Tuesday. Before we close up, you probably want to also check out our Discord server, and we have more than 1,000 attendees, or members within our server already. Really great option to have a discussion with other people in a community and asking help and helping others in the community, and easy to register as well. We always are looking in the feedback as well. So what works, what doesn't work, if you have good suggestions, if you have suggestions around the content and demos, what you would like to see, please let us know. Super important for us to improve this course and keep the course alive for you. The recording of this call will be available within 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community YouTube channel. You want to subscribe there. We get new stuff there published every single day. And the next call is on December 12th, 8 a.m. Pacific time. All of the community call invites are available from AKMS community call calls, and you can download the recurrent invites to your calendar. But that's it for this one. Thanks everybody for joining. Awesome call, awesome demos, the awesome engagement also in the chat. I'll follow up on if there's any pending questions on what I showed during my demo. But that's it for now. Stay safe. Let's stay in touch and keep the feedback coming. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.